Erica Kirk, JD Vance conspiracies have hit the timeline, ladies and gentlemen. I've seen some crazy Here's the clip.
But I do see some similarities of my husband in JD and Vice President JD Vance. I do. And that's why I'm so blessed to be able to introduce him tonight, because he understands the fight that we're up against, and he can articulate that in a way that transcends race.
Bro, why are you smiling like that? Why are you smiling like that while talking about JD Vance doing debate? Hey, yo, that's crazy.
Demographic backgrounds.
Maybe she just loves debate, bro. Have you guys ever thought about that? Actually, like, debate does do it for her, right? And the more you debate, the more it does it for her. This isn't even the craziest photo. The craziest photo is when she grabs him by the back of his head. I never seen nothing like that on camera. Bro, she straight up caressed this man. She straight up caressed this man's hair, bro. It was crazy. I ain't never seen nothing like that. I didn't even see it until it was popping on Twitter. It turns out it's on TikTok too. Let's take a look.
JD Vance's first wife, Usha, has got to be looking for an exit plan after the last few days. As if it wasn't bad enough for the woman who was raised in a traditional Hindu home by Indian immigrant parents to have her husband go on national television and say that it's completely reasonable and acceptable for Americans to want to live next to people who are like them and speak their language. She then got to watch her husband put his hands all over the recently widowed Erica Kirk, who's clearly looking for another famous man in her life. And then he goes on stage and religiously shames his wife for not being Christian and hopes and tells the whole world that he hopes that she'll convert to Christianity and find the right path. And then at the same event, he ties immigration to assimilation. If you don't understand how that relates to the former statement about Usha Vance's traditional Indian and Hindu upbringing, I'm just curious. I don't know many women who would be okay with their husband going on stage and talking about them like that and then hugging another recently widowed woman the way that he did.
It gets even crazier. He doubles down on hating Usha. What a disgusting comment. And it's hardly been the only one along these lines. First off, the question was from a person seemingly to my left about my interfaith marriage. I'm a public figure and people are curious, and I wasn't going to avoid the question. Second, my Christian faith tells me the gospel is true and is good for human beings. My wife, as I said at the Turning Point USA event, is the most amazing blessing I have in my life. She herself encouraged me to re-engage with my faith many years ago. She is not a Christian and has no plans to convert, but like many people in an interfaith marriage or any interfaith relationship, I hope she may one day see things as I do. Regardless, I'll continue to love and support her, even though she's a lesser being, because not only is she Indian, but also she's Hindu. Oh my God. Like, literally, that's read between the lines. When a Christian person says that, that's what they mean. Okay. When a Christian person is like, oh, she's going to hell, that's what he's saying. And I don't think JD Vance believes that, for the record, but that is the value that he is reinforcing here. Okay. If you are a real one, if you're a real Christian, like, that's what you believe. She's, yeah, bless your heart, bless her heart, you know, bless her heart. But the mother of my children is going to hell. This is the vice he is signaling. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's crazy. I hope she may one day see things as I do, regardless, or else she's going to hell. Okay. With the rest of the demons who do not convert to Christianity. Regardless, I'll continue to love and support her and talk to her about her faith and life and everything else, because she's my wife. I'm going to keep debating her. I'm going to debate her into converting into Christianity. The fingers in his hair, Jesus. Yes. Yes. Brother, that don't look right. Am I reading too much into it? Am I crazy? Also, hand on the waist. Are we for real right now? Hand on the waist? Hello, this is bad, brother. Yeah, and then she also said, no one will replace my husband except for JD Vance. Hey, yo, dude. Nah, my girl would have words for me if I let another girl do that. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy. Anyway, third, posts like this reek of anti-Christian bigotry. Yes, Christians have beliefs. And yes, those beliefs have many consequences. One of which is that we want to share them with other people. That is a completely normal thing. And anyone who's telling you otherwise has an agenda. Zaid Shalani, I sympathize with your sentiments, but isn't it true Usha comes from a religious family? I don't think they're agnostic, as you said. Thanks for responding. I'm glad you're on guard against Christian bigotry. For me, one of the most active Canadian advocates for Christians here and abroad. Have you been able to detect any anti-Christian bigotry from Tucker Carlson? Carlson, like him calling Christian Zionists a virus. At TPUSA, you were asked about Judaism openly persecuting our religion. Oh, Ezra Levant is big mad. Okay, remember, Ezra Levant, I believe, is Jewish. He is also a Nazi. Now, what's really interesting about Ezra Levant is that not only is he Jewish, but also a Nazi, he also has highlighted a lot of straight up Nazi sentiment in Canada. Many such cases, okay? What's really interesting about this is that right now, David Horowitz, rest in piss, he's dead already, but if he was alive, and Ben Shapiro and Ezra Levant and the entire contingency of ultra-conservative, Nazi-aligned Jews are freaking the out because for some weird reason, they thought that they could lean into the great replacement theories about how white people are being replaced by black and brown people, all this stuff, without the very same people that believe that inevitably tying it back to the Jews, as they did so historically, okay? Because that's what it is at the end of the day. So all of these guys who have created robust networks of propaganda, thinking that there was an unlimited alliance with the fascists that would never turn on them on the basis of Judaism, are currently facing the repercussions. They're currently experiencing something that they thought never would happen. That if you touch a hot stove, your hand is going to burn. And these guys didn't just touch the hot stove. They lit it on fire. They turned the heat up. They danced around it. Because remember, one of the most prominent anti-Semitic, anti-Israel voices right now in the United States of America is a woman by the name of Candace Owens. Candace Owens is anti-black, anti-brown, and also anti-Semitic. All of these things are things that Candace Owens was saying. Candace Owens is the invention of David Horowitz, another Islamophobic, ultra-conservative Jewish person, and also Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk too, but definitely Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro hired Candace Owens when he knew that she was anti-Semitic. Ben Shapiro had to fire Candace Owens because not only was she anti-Semitic, but she was also anti-Israel. And these guys thought that they could just, have people say a ton of anti-Semitic as long as they were pro-Israel. And now the true metric of being a real based right-wing groyper is to both be anti-Semitic and also anti-Israel. So they're cooked. This is where we're at now. Something that I have said for years, by the way.
You are married to a woman who is not Christian. In her Wikipedia, I just looked that up. I wanted to know what her faith was. I didn't know this before. But she still calls herself Hindu. You are raising three kids in cultural, racial, religious household. How are you maintaining or how are you teaching your kids not to keep your religion ahead of their mother's religion? Or how are you teaching them that your kind, they're that kind who got here just few years or few decades ago is different or is better than your mom's kind who got here just a generation before? How are you balancing that? And when you talk about too many immigrants here, when did you guys decide that number? Why did you sell us a dream? You made us spend our youth.
What do you mean? What the is this question? She's popping off, dude. My queen. Chatters give no grace to someone whose second language is English. Calm down and listen to her words. She's saying you got an Indian wife who's not Christian and you're out here kicking big game about Christian nationalism and how immigrants are bad. Like, how do you educate your children on that? It doesn't make any sense.
So here's the thing. I can believe that the United States should lower its levels of immigration in the future while also respecting that there are people who have come here through lawful immigration pathways that have contributed to the country. But just because one person or 10 people or 100 people came in legally and contributed to the United States of America, does that mean that we're thereby committed to let in 1 million or 10 million or 100 million people a year in the future? No, that's not right. We cannot have, I'll go and finish. We cannot have an immigration policy where what was good for the country 50 or 60 years ago binds the country inevitably for the future. There's too many people who want to come to the United States of America, and my job as vice president is not to look out for the interests of the whole world. It's to look out for the people of the United States. Now,
Dog, your wife is Indian, owned. That's it. Do you feel like your wife is here taking advantage of American prosperity, or do you feel like your wife has contributed to American prosperity? That's the question. For white people who are coping about their position in society, that's the problem. Racist people think Indians, Muslims, whatever, brown people, black people, they come into this country and they take advantage of it. That's not the case. That's not the case at all. I mean, I would say it's a deep shame that he won't even factor that into his conversation here and use his own personal experience with a loved one to say, like, immigrants make this country gay, because he can't say it. But that is the reality. He's so shameless.
You asked a personal question about our interfaith household. And yes, my wife did not grow up Christian. I think it's fair to say that she grew up in a Hindu family, but not in a particularly religious family in either direction. In fact, when I met my wife, we were both, I would consider myself an agnostic or an atheist, and that's what I think she would have considered herself as well. You know, everybody has to come to their own arrangement here. The way that we've come to our arrangement is she's my best friend. We talk to each other about this stuff. So we decided to raise our kids Christian. Our two oldest kids who go to school, they go to a Christian school. Our 8-year-old did his first communion about a year ago. That's the way that we have come to our arrangement. But, thank you. My 8-year-old was also very proud of his first communion. Thank you, guys. I'll tell him that Ole Miss wishes him the best. But I think everybody has to have...
It's so fake. When Hundo P, his kids are going to be atheists, dude. What a silly, stupid game we play still in this day and age. Everything that this man does is calculated. He is the biggest brown noser of all time. He will literally farm out his children to advance a talking point. A cynical little weasel.
This own conversation when you're in a marriage. I mean, it's true for friends of mine who are in Protestant and Catholic marriages, friends of mine who are in, atheist and Christian marriages. You just got to talk to the only advice I can give is you just got to talk to the person that God has put you with, and you've got to make those decisions as a family unit. For us, it works out. Now, most Sundays, Usha will come with me to church. As I've told her, and I've said publicly, and I'll say now in front of 10,000 of my closest friends, do I hope eventually that she is somehow moved by the same thing that I was moved in by church? Yeah, I honestly do wish that, because I believe in the Christian gospel, and I hope eventually my wife comes to see it the same way. But if she doesn't, then God says everybody has free will, and so that doesn't cause a problem for me. That's something you work out with your friends, with your family, with the person that you love. Again, one of the most important Christian principles is that you respect free will. Usha's closer to the priests who baptized me than maybe I am. They talk about this stuff. My attitude is you figure this stuff out as a family, and you trust in God to have a plan, and you try to follow it as best as you can. And that's what I try to do. I want to make a...
It's so fake. Remember, he's a Yale graduate, pussy-ass libtard. I guess there is some kind of divine punishment at play here, because, you're trying to farm respect from an audience that literally thinks you married someone less than human. So good luck on that front. Who think your children are lesser than they are because they're half Indian. You have to really eat a lot of self-respect in that regard. It's probably even harder than doing this whole routine about Christianity and how you found God.
If you ask the question, what is the exact right number of immigrants for the United States to let in? It is just very specific on the context. If you go back to the 1920s, the United States passed an Immigration Reform Act that effectively cut down immigration to close to zero for 40 years in this country. And what happened over those 40 years? The many, many people who had come from many different foreign countries and different foreign cultures, they assimilated into American culture. And there was an expectation that they would assimilate into American culture. I think we have two problems in our immigration system today. And my guess is you're probably a slightly more leftist political persuasion, liberal political persuasion, maybe not. But here's the thing. I remember back in my establishment GOP days, when I was still very early getting involved in Republican politics,
that's literally 2 years ago? You mean 2 years ago when Peter Thiel paid for you to run for Ohio Senate? He makes it seem like he'd been doing this for 20 years. I believe it was 2020, right? Was it the 2020 race where he won his seat? The only Peter Thiel candidate that actually won. Oh, no, it's not even 2022. Not even 2020. Oh my God. 2022, baby. So yeah, it is literally 3 years ago. I was right. How incredible. Like his wife married Usha, my queen, married a guy who wrote a famous book that liberals love to consume about how the white working class are stupid hicks with so much hatred in their hearts that they voted for Donald Trump because they're a bunch of racist, irredeemable, monstrous hicks. And then she had to sit there and watch him go on every neo-Nazi podcast for the next like 3 years, 4 years, only to become the vice president of Donald Trump. Because remember, these are people that are Yale graduated. JD Vance called Donald Trump Hitler. They know better. Imagine getting married to a man and having children with a man only to have him turn into a groiper on camera. That's gotta be pathetic. That's awesome. You're like, hey, remember when we were at Yale and we were both woke? What the happened? And he'll obviously present that as like serious character development. Dude, here is another instance where it doesn't take much to grift to the right. Here's a guy who literally called Donald Trump Adolf Hitler, alongside RFK Jr., by the way. Here's a guy who spent his entire career getting liberals to give him money, only to turn around and be like, I love Donald Trump, that's it. And everybody is like, oh, that's perfect. He loves Donald Trump. He said it. That's it. There is no version of this on the opposing side. Like, there's no world where you have, I mean, I guess you have the rhinos or the never Trump Republicans and stuff, but like, broadly speaking, I don't think liberals are so easy to trust, and leftists certainly are not easy to trust. The person who then turns around and says like, oh yeah, I know I spent my entire life's work is being a conservative, conservative, and working for the Trump administration and all this stuff, only to now turn around and be like, yeah, I'm actually good. And before you say, they brought back Cheney, man, and it failed. I mean, with George W. Bush, maybe, but I don't think liberals are as open-minded to this kind of stuff as the Republicans are, is what I'm saying. And the left certainly is not.